Well, greetings and welcome to the Dividing Line. We're back in the big studio because Rich has been working in here and that's where he wants to be. That's basically no particular reason, other than to, let Rich play with colors and lights and camera stuff and just reorient himself to this particular thing, and then we'll go in the other one and start all over again. Sort of how it works. And by the way, for the folks making cat videos, cat shirt videos, here we go. There you go. I've got some more. I need to look for them because I actually have people telling me on X that their kids driving in the car want to hear, where do you buy those shirts while they're driving. So I'm not sure that the guys who put that together get royalties, given that AI sang it. How do you pay AI royalty for singing a song? That's one of the questions that I'm sure AI is going to bring up and probably find a way to start collecting royalties on stuff like that. I don't know. But they did a great job, and it's so popular that people want on their playlists, and I'm not sure if it's really workout music. I haven't really thought about it along those lines, but we got to keep giving them materials. So we've got a cat shirt on for them today. So I wonder, there was construction on the way here, and so I'm a little bit behind on things. I wanted to see if I could find a screenshot that, and I found it. I found part of it. Let's see what this one does. Now, I don't know, sometime last week, there was a screenshot, there was a post on X. And I'm clicking on various ones here that aren't helping me whatsoever. It was by Luther, I think it said Lutheran Satire or something like that. It wasn't that one. It wasn't the ones that do that. Lutheran something. I can see it here, but it's cut off in the screenshot. And there were two panels to the post. The top one was Team Paedo-Baptism, and the bottom one was Team Believers Baptism. And so up above, you've got Luther and Calvin, and I don't know if Zwingli was in there, but Sproul and maybe Machen, maybe Warfield, who knows. Augustine was in there someplace, I'm sure. And then down below, you have Team Believers Baptism. Now, the commentary from the person who posted this, I took it that they had created this, was something along the lines of 70 to 90% of Christians worldwide believe in infant baptism, and here's a comparison of the two perspectives. There was nothing in it that said, this is meant for ha-ha. This is a joke. And the fact is, I've seen this kind of argumentation many times over my life. And there is a historical fundamental difference between how Paedo-Baptists have treated Baptists and how Baptists have treated Paedo-Baptists. I mean, it's just a fact. There's no way around it. Now, unfortunately, this Lutheran individual decided to expand the meaning of Baptist or team believers baptism to include all sorts of cults and isms. So we have Mitt Romney and Joseph Smith here. We've got Kenneth Copeland. What was the ditzy dame with the pink hair? 21. Jan Crouch.
Oh, yeah.
Jan Crouch.
I was going to say 21. She wasn't 20. Oh.
Yeah, no. Benny Hinn. Some guy that I recognize his face. I don't know who he is. A snake handler. I don't know who the guy down there is or him. Somehow Steve Camp got in here. just very old picture of Steve Camp with long hair and a mullet. Right below Kenneth Copeland. That's pretty weird. Bill Clinton, Joel Osteen, the guy from Bethel, whatever his name is, and then you have Jehovah's Witness World Headquarters. I guess they couldn't find a picture of a Jehovah's Witness. There's got to be lots of them around, I would assume, especially from doorbell cameras. But they just took a picture of the World Headquarters and put that in here. So you've got anti-Trinitarians, non-Trinitarians, snake handlers, just the wildest range of wackiness. And of course, their doctrine of baptism has nothing to do with what they believe at all. It's not definitional. It's not connected. It could be anything. I mean, the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, what do they have in common? Well, it's believers' baptism. Most of them don't even have a doctrine of baptism at all. I mean, it's just tradition. I don't remember Benny Hinn. The only thing I can think of when I think of Benny Hinn and baptism is baptism in the Holy Spirit, not baptism as in believers' baptism, or same thing with Kenneth Copeland or anything like that. So I just made the comment that this is one of the worst presentations I've ever seen. And again, one of the reasons for this is when you look at Baptists, at least those who were the progenitors for the Baptist churches in the United States, what marks them off? A refusal to allow the state to interfere with the matters of the church. And that's why they were persecuted. Why was John Bunyan stuck in a prison cell? For crossing the institutional church and for being a Baptist and for not allowing the church to determine who he could preach to and where he could preach and things like that. He was opposing sacralism. Oh, yes, he was. And so there's a long history of the Baptists defending the religious liberty of others. There's a much shorter history of others defending the religious liberty of Baptists. And that's why you have a Baptist martyrology well into the 1700s in Europe, England, places like that. And so the first thing that crossed my mind is it would be so easy to create a graphic with all the rainbow-stoled priestesses from the PCUSA, United Methodist Church, Episcopal Church, United Church of Christ, did I say ELCA? ELCA and PCUSA. Might have missed one of them. Anyways, the Protestants, the Lutherans, the Episcopalians, and they're all baptized as infants, and they all baptize babies, and they're all glowing heretics. So, is that a valid argument? How about Pope Leo? How about the Patriarch of Constantinople? I mean, you can go on and on and on, and it would never cross my mind to create such a graphic because there is such a massive range of differences of the fundamental beliefs of these various groups that it makes the connection, at best, extremely tenuous. So I reposted it and I commented on it. And I said, "This is terrible. There's just no rational thought to this at all. This is not how this topic should be addressed." I don't think I actually addressed the history of it. I mean, there are no Lutheran Fritz Urbas, right? Fritz Urba, Anabaptist, thrown into the 40-foot dungeon in the Wartburg Castle by Lutherans. And at first, Lutheran ministers would come and sit at the top and preach to him about baptism, and when that didn't work, they gave up on it, and he died like 6 or 7 years later, down there in the dark alone. There are no Lutherans that Baptists threw into a hole someplace. with Luther's knowledge. Okay, Luther knew Fritz Erba was down there. That's one of the things we have to be aware of. And so there's been a very big difference in how this has been handled. And so I posted that, said, hey, terrible. I don't know, about 2 days later, this Lutheran guy posts on X, and he reposts the Teen Believers baptism graphic. And he says, after being hunted down and literally threatened with harm via email by James White's henchman, and henchman is singular, so I guess I only have one of them now. I used to have lots of them, but now I've just got one. The insurance costs are just ridiculous. Henchmen, have you ever looked up insurance costs for henchmen? It's very prohibitive. I decided it's time to lock down the account for a while. I've never seen anything like this before in my life out of one group of Christians, all in scare quotes. It went on to say James White has made, and I didn't expand it out to save the screenshot. Sorry about that. And I think I went back to try to get it, but he had already locked down his account. Actually, this may be disappointing for some, but I don't have any henchmen. I don't. Are you a henchman, Rich?
I'm too busy.
Rich is too busy to be a henchman. And is Algo one of our henchmen? I don't know. We've really had trouble over the years keeping good henchmen. We really have. It's been a struggle. But we don't have any. Come on. I didn't send anybody after this guy. And what kind of a moron would threaten him with harm via email over something like this? I mean, come on. So when I responded to this, I responded by saying, what and how did I put it? I complimented him on his ability to use the victim card, because that's what he did. He got caught making an absurd graphic that was indefensible. And then when he can't respond logically to what the issues are, he does people threatening to hunt me in email, and it's James White's fault. And it's just like, oh, yeah. Okay. Well, don't post. If you're going to post stupid memes, either put a bunch of smiley faces afterwards so everybody knows you're being silly, or if you actually mean it, then stand up and take it like a man. Get serious. One of the two, but I don't know. It's just, but we're going to have to look up henchman insurance, because it might be worth looking into it. You never know. It could be useful. Okay. All right. Don't really. We've mentioned for a couple times now the fact that it really does seem. I'm becoming more and more convinced. You know, when Leo the 14th was elevated to the status of the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, I didn't know anything about the guy. I didn't know nothing about, what he was as a cardinal or what his theology was. And first American Pope. At least you're going to understand what he says, anyways. His Latin's probably not going to be all that great. You can talk American sports with him if anybody wants to do that. But I didn't know much about his background. I did see that he was in South America for a long period of time, and okay, that made me sort of go, all right, that's probably where the connection with Francis was and things like that. But we have been talking for a long time about how much time Francis had to stack the College of Cardinals, to get rid of the old guard, to make sure they couldn't vote. And so when the conclave only lasted a matter of hours, what was it, like 2 days, something like that, and this guy is elected, the thought crossed my mind, Was this a done deal? Was this already decided before now? And, the first few weeks, first few months, it's sort of quiet, all quiet on the Western Front, shall I say. Well, the past couple of weeks have now started to give us some real indication. He meets with James Martin, the Jesuit, who is the big promoter of the LGBTQ plus stuff. And if he was going to make any kind of return to orthodoxy on that subject, that's not somebody you'd be getting together with to have, a chit-chat. And then you've got these pilgrims coming to Rome, and he greets these people that are coming, and it just starts sounding like Francis Part 2, which is what you would expect. You would not expect someone to be moving super quickly if you want to cement the changes that Francis made during his pontificate and make sure they last into the next pontificate. What are you going to do? You're going to move slowly. You're going to continue to appoint people to key Vatican committees and, the internal Vatican hierarchy. It's really interesting that I just saw, and I'm not sure exactly when they did this, but I think it was fairly recently, that the USCCB, the United States Council of Catholic Bishops, which is no conservative group. Now, Francis may have thought they were too conservative, but in comparison to historical Roman Catholic Orthodoxy, this is not a conservative group. And they have approved what's called the NRSVue. So NRSV, New Revised Standard Version. And then small UE, so capital letters and then UE, updated edition. And so it's the NRSVue Catholic edition. I haven't been able to get a hold of one yet. I've tried looking on Amazon. Maybe it's not available yet. Seems weird, but there's something that came out in 1922. In 2022, that's not it, I don't think. But according to this article from October 3rd, so 4 days ago, news broke yesterday on the Catholic Bible Talk blog that a Catholic edition of the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition has been approved by the USCCB. According to the Friendship Press YouTube channel, from which Catholic Bible Talk got the news, quote, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has granted an imprimatur for the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition Catholic Edition. This means that the NRSVue Catholic Edition is approved for publication and, quote, permitted for private use and study by the Catholic faithful, unquote. The NRSVue Catholic Edition is available for publishing partners to license and publish in print and digital formats, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going to... Okay. So this fellow who wrote this article said that he had written an article for Catholic Answers 3 years ago trying to stop or slow down an imprimatur for the NRSVue. In my article, I quote Robert A.J. Gagnon. Bob Gagnon, a Protestant scripture scholar whose work is respected across denominational lines, particularly on the Bible and homosexuality. It was Gagnon who first blew the whistle on the NRSVue, writing in a January 5th, 2022 Facebook post. They have now changed sodomites to the nebulous men who engage in illicit sex in 1 Corinthians 6:9, which does not indicate to English readers the connection to homosexual practice provided by the Greek word, contrary to both morphology and context. A textual note added by the NRSVue committee claims the term is unclear. Unclear. Now, of course, the term arsenokoitai in the plural form there. Arsenokoites is not unclear, though I have warned us for years there is a major push on within New Testament scholarship to change the lexical sources. So in other words, Bauer, Arndt, Gingrich, and Donker, Bauer, Donker, Arndt, and Gingrich, second edition, third edition, etc., etc., standard Greek lexicons. The difference between the second and third editions, if you look up arsenokoites, the entry is about 3 times, maybe 4 times longer in the third edition than the second edition. And that's not because there was a bunch of archaeological discoveries or things like that. It's because of the large number of articles that have been published seeking to fundamentally redefine the term. I remember the first time that we're going to get back to the Pope. There's a connection here, trust me. I'm just pointing out that the USCCB is doing this, USCCB is doing this at the same time that the Pope's doing these things in the Vatican, and I think there's a connection between the two. I remember back in, pretty certain it was the year 2000, when, did Jeff call me? As 26 years ago, I don't know. Jeff Neal may have called me. And Jeff Neal is a pastor now in Granbury. Is it called Granbury?
Somewhere in Texas.
Huh?
Somewhere in Texas.
Rich is being extremely helpful. Somewhere in Texas, yeah. And given the size of that country called Texas, that's very, very helpful. I think it's Granbury, Texas. It's on the western side of the Dallas-Fort Worth. It's as you're leaving all the traffic out there. And I got to preach there last year sometime. I think it was last year, maybe early this year, but I think it was last year. And Jeff and I go way back, far back, much farther back than either one of us would like to admit. He's a little bit older than I am, but looks younger than I am. And he was ahead of me in Greek at Grand Canyon. Then he didn't start seminary till about 2 years after I did, so he's a little bit behind me at Fuller Seminary. So anyway, he called me in sometime in the year 2000 and said that he had been invited to go on, pretty sure it was KPXQ. Yeah, it was KPXQ. I remember the studio. To debate 2 homosexuals, one of whom he and I knew from Grand Canyon College. We had known him in the Bible classes. He was, I think he was a Bible major. And after he graduated, he had come out as a homosexual and had become the chaplain of either the Senate or the House of Representatives here in Arizona. And so they wanted it to be a 2-on-2 debate type thing, and so he called me up, and I knew that Jeff had done a series of studies in his church on this subject. It was not my subject at this point in time at all, to be perfectly honest with you. But I had the radio experience, especially at KPXQ. So we went in and had this debate, and it was during that debate that Jeff gave what is still the best. Rich, could this is very serious, so could we not have the giggling in the studio audience, please? Thank you. Jeff gave what is still the best definition of the Greek term arsenokoites that is used in 1 Corinthians 6:9 and in 1 Timothy 1:10, as I recall, the 2 places Paul uses it. And he said, arsenokoites is what men do with men in bed, and that ain't eating crackers. That's exactly how he put it on the air. And that's still probably one of the best definitions you can get. I mean, when you actually engage in any kind of serious New Testament study, you always look to usage in the Greek Septuagint. And when you look at Leviticus 18 and Leviticus 20, you see that when the Mosaic law prohibits, well, first in Leviticus 18 sort of describes homosexuality, men lying with men, and describes this as an abomination that causes the land to spew out its inhabitants. This is what the pagan people were doing in the land, and they have now been cast out of the land by the land. I mean, it's the way it's described there, just because of the unnaturalness of the behavior. And then in Leviticus 20, as part of the holiness code, again, it is men bedding with men, and it's arsenos and koiteo, and they're right next to each other. And so the meaning is clear. The meaning in the Old Testament is clear. The meaning in the Greek Septuagint is clear. The meaning as it's quoted in the New Testament is clear. And on any other topic, there wouldn't be any controversy here. There would be no argumentation about it. It would be, yep, Paul's drawing this straight out of the Greek Septuagint. He does that all the time. And you move on from there. But because of the topic itself, all of a sudden you have all this, well, it's illicit sex is now what the NRSVue says. And so the article here says USCCB approves gay-washed Bible. So in other words, they have removed some of the key references to the biblical prohibition on homosexuality via translation, via misrepresenting how you do serious New Testament study. And so the USCCB, Council of Catholic Bishops, you think they didn't know this about the NRSVue? Of course they knew about it. They've given it the imprimatur. Now, imprimatur and nihil obstat used to have a much more significant meaning than it has now. It's still technically supposed to indicate that the book that bears that imprimatur does not contain within it anything that would be opposed to the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. The nihil obstat really is sort of the same thing. And like I said, 150 years ago, there was a high standard for that, and the Roman Catholic could put some weight on the idea that the book had been thoroughly examined on a doctrinal level. Not so much now, to be honest with you, but still, the imprimatur means something for publishing, being able to get your material published in particular Roman Catholic contexts and things like that. So lo and behold, the USCCB has given the imprimatur to this translation of the Bible that purposefully, clearly, unquestionably seeks to minimize the clarity of the Bible's teaching on the subject of homosexuality. Now, the U.S., yes, I know, my watch is ding, 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 dinging, ding, ding, all over the place. Means I'm getting a bunch of text messages that I'll never catch up on when I get done. This is at the same time that you have pilgrimages to Rome and laments being offered in churches in Rome, and that had to be approved by the Vatican, about how the church has treated homosexuals and all the rest of this kind of stuff. And so it seems to me like the impetus that started in December of 23 with Fiducia Supplicans. And if you've slept since December of 23, like I have, Rich certainly has, that was the startling statement that allowed the giving of blessings to people in irregular unions. It wasn't saying that gay marriage was being accepted and things like that, but it was, as we said at the time, sticking the nose through the crack of the door. There's these cute little bathroom signs that say, "Thank you for visiting the bathroom. A kitty will be with you momentarily." I don't know why, but cats want to come in the bathroom when you're in there. And so if you don't close the door all the way, all of a sudden I'll see, this little pink nose, and then eventually the door opens and here comes Fox or Sophie or Yo-Yo or whoever. And so it's done slowly. It's not, you don't kick the door open and let's do gay marriage and everything. And they're following the same path that has gutted the United Methodist Church, the Episcopalian Church, the PCUSA, the ELCA, all these mainline denominations that are all dying 1,000 deaths and will be a footnote in history fairly soon. They're following the same path within Roman Catholicism. And it's obvious to anybody who knows this. It's obvious to many Roman Catholics. And they're like, what's going on here? How can this be happening? Well, that's what's going on. And so it just seems to me, honestly, that we do have here clear evidence of the continuation of the Franciscan degradation, of the Roman Catholic Church. It's happening, and I am becoming convinced more and more every day that Leo was specifically chosen before Francis died to be his successor and to continue his legacy. And I think that's what's taking place. So things we definitely have to keep an eye on. I have on our screen over here a not overly high resolution. And honestly, it looks Orthodox to me, at least it looks Eastern Orthodox of some kind. I'm sure people who can read icons and things like that. It could be Roman Catholic, but I don't know. But Protestia posted this and called it, how'd they put it? Their favorite their favorite relic video. Yeah, that's what it was. Favorite relic video. And it is astonishing. What you're going to see is this man, he has a human foot, a thankfully dead human foot. Wouldn't want it to be still twitching or anything, but of some, who knows who. I'm sure that someone has identified who this was, but some person identified as a saint. And you go to Europe, folks, we're not used to this, but you go to Europe and places like that, and you will see skulls and feet and femurs and the dangerous thing is that for a lot of us, you look at something like this and it's just so weird. It's just so outside of our experience that you just immediately go, oh, ick factor all over the place. What is this? The problem is that they have their own apologists. And they will make argument. Now, of course, if they're Eastern Orthodox, what they're going to do is if you say something against this, they're immediately going to call you a Nestorian. which is the default Orthodox insult. It may have absolutely nothing to do with your beliefs or anything you said, but they'll call you an historian. And it all goes back to, well, it all goes back to that. 3 treatises on the divine images by St. John of Damascus. Wow, what did my hearing aid just do? A woohoo. 3 treatises on the divine images, St. John of Damascus, which his argumentation on this subject then became the essence of this, which is the Acts of the Second Council of Nicaea in 787. I only realized today, I lost this book in February while I was traveling. I think I got blown out of my truck by that windstorm in Texas. All my markings gone in that one, and didn't realize that really till today, so we've got some more work to do. But anyway, what they will throw at you is that if you don't understand that Christ was made flesh, you see, then the only objection you can have to an icon representing the reality of Christ made flesh, and then hence his saints, the icons are meant to represent them, and so when you venerate the icon, you are venerating what Christ did through them in the physical world. And so they will say that Western Protestants especially really don't believe in the incarnation, and they're Nestorians, and that they don't believe in the hypostatic union, where you have two natures hypostatically joined but not intermingled, Eutychianism, not replaced, Apollinarianism, and not divided, Nestorianism. And so most of us are sitting around going, what does this have to do with icons? It's one thing to talk about Christ. Christ was absolutely unique. Sounds like you are creating entire categories that have no expression in apostolic scripture or anything else based upon the answers to theological questions that were 300 years, 400 years down the road. Oh, that's exactly what they're doing. But once you claim to be the apostolic church, you get to do whatever you want. That's, the church has said it, therefore that's the way to understand things. And so what you're about to see here, it's short, is the rinsing of water over this relic, this foot, into this big tub of water. And I'll just let you watch and see what happens, and you'll get the idea of what's going down here. Okay, so you notice that the nice unified singing stops very quickly. What they're doing is they all have little buckets. There's somebody with a big green plastic bottle and just anything they can get their hands on. And they're literally fighting with one another to get this blessed water. This water that, they just dropped a little bit of water over the foot, that went into the thing, and now the whole thing. And that's why I wonder if it isn't Orthodox. I think it was the very last time I was in Ukraine. Nick and I took the train, went down into Kyiv, and we visited. Why are we doing a picture-in-picture?
Oh, my bad.
Just wondered if there was a reason that we were doing that. Anyway, we went down into Kyiv, and we visited some. We visited a war museum, and we visited some Orthodox churches. And we went in to the foyer. We didn't go into the service, but we in the foyer, and the music was. Give him credit. It's heavenly. It's beautiful. But as we were talking about it, he'd grown up there, and so he knows how the nominal religion functions and how people within Orthodoxy understand something like this. And within Orthodoxy, you have a church, the icons, the liturgy. Once you understand their idea of energeia. Now, energies is how we translate that in English, and it appears in the New Testament, but it takes on a whole special meaning unto itself within Orthodoxy. And these places become places of energeia, special divine energy. And when you have relics like this, any type of touching connection to this saint's body, since that saint was highly sanctified and indwelt by the Holy Spirit, then there's the idea of an energeia, an energy that is still even in the dead foot. And so you rinse water over it, and now all the water in that tub is not just blessed as in holy water within Roman Catholicism, but has a special energy to it. So I would imagine there's probably people in there that are taking that to a sick relative, to hopefully not to drink, but to sprinkle it on them and things like that. This just becomes part of the daily routine. But it especially in Eastern Europe, the two begin to sort of, Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy, you get a lot of intermingling, and so you could have a bunch of stuff going on there. It's hard to say. But what happened is, I don't know why, but Calvin Robinson has decided. Now, Rich says he can't get into his without using the thingy bobbies here. Well, okay, I'm into it now, but how do I get back up to the computer? I can't get my little feet down to the floor. I got one down there. Woohoo! There we go.
I'm not pushing you.
Well, you know what? I did not ask you to push me. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Calvin Robinson. Oh, everything's now met. The cameraman actually has to get out of his chair, which is the same kind of chair this is, and he now has to. So if I stand up, you're going to have to get up and do this again. Is that the idea? Okay. Didn't the first cameras we have remote control on them?
These have remote control.
No, they don't. No, they don't. He says he's having remote control on them. You can zoom, but you can't pan and tilt.
Oh no, we never had pan and tilt automatic.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Oh, those were weird.
Oh! Did you catch that? Did you catch that? See, I was right, and his response is, "Those were weird." Okay, how is that? How is that a rebuttal to the fact that I was right? That we did our first cameras in here. You could pan and tilt remotely, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mentally blocked those.
You mentally blocked those. Okay. Well, I noticed that it sort of kept you from mentally thinking either. So, what were we talking about? Anyway, Calvin Robinson, you may not remember him. He is the Afroed. I first saw him during COVID, in the London area, speaking conservatively. And at the time, I assumed, wrongly, that he was a conservative Church of England guy, Anglican guy, and hence, maybe like the Sydney Anglicans, believing in inerrancy and justification by faith and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, well, that's cool, And then you may recall, sometime last year, we started realizing that Calvin Robinson is actually just a Catholic without a church. I think he's still in that situation right now. He keeps getting booted out of these teeny tiny little communions that he becomes a part of. And you know what? He may well get booted out for just simply being conservative. That's possible. I'm not gonna say that's an impossible thing. But I know he got booted out of the last one for doing the salute, the sort of one-armed salute that he did. And he did that purposefully, and it got him dumped out. Anyway, I don't know what he's doing these days, if he's just on the speaking circuit or just what. But we had a few back and forths, and he spoke at the conference with Joel Webbin and Stephen Wolfe and the guys from Ogden and stuff like that. And he's even been on Canon. He even went up to Moscow and talked about, again, social stuff. But his theology isn't even semi-Protestant at all, and certainly not biblical. And if I recall correctly, it was this Catholicism with a ZM, a guy on Twitter, that had said something about the thief on the cross was saved due to the mediation of Mary. And Calvin Robinson had said, amen. And that had started people to start realizing that Calvin Robinson, when it comes to the key issues of the gospel, is thoroughly compromised. And all that was brought up. He was still invited to be part of the conference, and you can take that to mean whatever you want to take that to mean. So I really haven't, I don't follow him. In fact, I may be blocked. I'm not sure. Don't care one way or the other. And so I was a little surprised when a couple days ago on X, and I think it was because of this video, this Catholicism ZM guy, what he does, this guy, what he does, and I'm sorry if it's, hold on a second. Yeah, Anthony, Catholicism 1 is his ID. He had posted something along the lines of, if you will not venerate a foot, so what you just saw in the video, you cannot be saved. And so this is what he does. He comes up with these statements, and they only make sense to a certain group within a certain context, and to everybody else it just sounds like pure insanity. That way he gets all this pushback, all these quotes, and I would be stunned, honestly, if his account is not monetized so that he can make money off of all these clicks and everything else. Mine is not, just so you know. And Calvin Robinson quotes him and tags me. So it shows up in my feed. And so I screenshot it and reposted it and said, Catholicism, Anthony, just does this for clicks and engagement. And Robinson just does the same thing as the other guy, just not as well. That's all I said. I didn't engage it, anything like that. And then so, I think this was 8 hours ago. Catholicism had said something about the rosary, praying the rosary. And so he tags me again and says, you mean to say, quote, if you do not pray the rosary daily, you cannot be saved, close quote, and then tags me. So I don't know if they're just trying to, if they know I've got a fairly decent audience, a fair number of followers, and so if I respond to something, that means more of my people will come in and make comments, and therefore it increases his something. I'm not sure how it works, but I'm fairly certain that would help him monetarily if I were to interact with his material in that way. And maybe they're just working together. Maybe he said, hey, I'll give you 10%. I really don't know. But and then this was great. I just haven't looked down here. Oh, X. A guy with a Arabic letter in front of his name, Athanasius, says, I feel like you're only obsessed with him because he's black. And my response was, he's tagging me. I haven't mentioned him in a long time, and I am the obsessed one? Wow, there you go. Yeah, you find a lot of weird stuff on X. So the reason I bring this all up is to tie it in with the video that we saw. Because the original statement, if you will not venerate a foot, you cannot be saved. That's pretty much what John of Damascus said. And that's definitely what the Second Council of Nicaea said. If you will not venerate the icons and the images, you are the enemy of God. You are Satan's pawn. And that's the language that John of Damascus used, and that's the language quoted by the Council Fathers. If you do not accept, and again, I'm not taking the time to go into all the iconoclastic controversy, what had happened over the preceding 150 years. What is painfully clear is that the idea of the veneration of images, icons, was not apostolic. Now, there are people today trying, and honestly, I would say, trying with a level of desperation that is their greatest refutation. What do I mean by that? There are books coming out, one that came out within the past couple of years, when they try to find in the primitive church examples of the veneration of icons, the things that they will try to grab hold of and say, here it is, are so stretched and so out of context and so unnatural and so irrelevant to the idea of the veneration of images that Nicaea was talking about, that it destroys their own argument, at least for the person who wants to look at it in a serious fashion. So these books are out there. And so what they're going to say to you when you object to that video is, you're an historian, it's appropriate to venerate the images of those who have entered into the physical realm and served God, and these relics are just physical reminders of the great presence of the Spirit of God and the blessing of the Spirit of God in the life of the saint, or however you want to run with it. And the vast majority of evangelical Protestant Christians are left going, what? I don't know what Nestorianism is. I have no idea what you're talking about. The difference between veneration and worship. And there you go. The conversation pretty much grinds to a halt, and you're not going to be able to get much accomplished in that situation. So whether Robinson, when Cal Robinson says, you mean to say, if you do not pray the rosary daily, you cannot be saved? Is he doing that just simply to get me to respond on X? And all I did was I did quote it, so I may have helped with something. All I said was trolling in the morning. Trolling in the morning. Someone's doing trolling on X, and they're trolling in the morning. Hopefully that did not provide a whole lot of interaction or monetary help. Oh, I just saw something just pop up. Oh, okay. Cameron was just trying to get more. Is it Mormonger? Mormonger? It's Mormon with a G-E-R at the end. Is an account on X. He was the one, and I mentioned it to you within the past two programs, he was the one where he was saying, Mormons aren't Christians. I've never seen anyone give a rational defense of this. Doubtful, very, very doubtful. But I said, hey, let's talk about it, but I never did hear back from him. One last thing before we wrap up. Did you have something you were going to? Well, you don't have a microphone anyways. Ha, 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 ha. Was there something you were going to? No, okay. Just real quickly, last night, and this is very rare, it only happened because of Algo. I happened to tune in. Do we even use that term anymore? I happened to click on to YouTube when Puritan Fan was doing his program. He was doing a live program, and I saw the topic again on Revelation 16:5. He has done multi-hour debates with the TR guy. I forget what his name is. On Revelation 16:5. You go to his website, and there is a small book of blog articles that he has written on Revelation 16:5. If I were Puritan Fan, I would not want to read the book of Revelation ever again, lest I run into Revelation 16:5, because I know he knows everything there is to know about. And very patient man, obviously. And so I was commenting in the comment boxes, so he'd look down there and see it, and he'd put it up on the screen and things like that. Now, at some point, he said there are some alterations, emendations that he would make in my presentation on Revelation 16:5, but that it's generally accurate, but there's a few little things that he would take exception to. And I asked him to let me know what that is. The reason being, Revelation 16:5 is one of 250 textual variants that I addressed in the King James only controversy. So it's not like, and I wrote that in 1994. You know how much easier it is today to look up material and gather material on a textual variant than it was in 1994, when the internet had just started, and the vast majority of the websites we use today did not exist at that particular point in time. It would have taken forever. And so I'm sure there's things that I could learn from all the research that he's done that would be very, very valuable and very, very useful on Revelation 16:5. But if you look up Puritan Fan, one word, on YouTube, I think his channel is just simply called Puritan Fan. Who else is going to have that name? It's going to be on his headstone, the poor guy. It will be. What are you talking about? I mean, it's going to say Puritan Fan. If it's not, Algo will come along and tape that on or something like that.
Has he legally changed his name yet?
I don't think he's legally changed his name to Turretin Fan, but
idea.
honestly, he'd probably respond faster to Turretin Fan than to his real name, which most people don't know. I do, but most people don't know his real name. So he probably hears Turretin Fan a whole lot more than he hears his actual name. But anyway, if you're interested in textual critical stuff, and especially King James onlyism, I would highly recommend to you tracking down Turretin Fan's YouTube channel and checking out what he did last night on Revelation 16:5. I could not do 10, 12 hours on Revelation 16:5. Turretin Fan can. Part of that reason is he talks much more slowly than I do. But the real reason is he's just so much more patient than I am. And so a good brother and lots of really good information. So you should look that up. All right. Went a couple of minutes past there, but I wanted to get that last thing in there.
So let folks know that the conference got posted over the weekend.
Oh, too bad you don't have a microphone back there, Rich. That's a shame.
That's okay. You're better at it.
No, I'm really not. The Biblical Worldview and Ethics Conference we did up in, it wasn't Dolores, it's another name. Mangus, whatever it is, little teeny town in southwestern Colorado. Rich went up there, and Rich wanted to get all the TSA agents as excited as possible. And so he had all sorts of fun stuff to look through in his bags, take out and examine everything. And did this fancy schmancy video recording of our presentations. There were only two of us, but our presentations on the subject. And that has now been posted. Is it on our?
It's on our YouTube channel.
YouTube channel?
I'll be creating one for them soon. So.
Okay, and they're going to have one as well. Yes. And currently, Rich is working on the Prologue of John debate with Dale Tuggy, and really owes me a great deal of thanks for the fact that I only had, actually it says 14 slides. I didn't use the last slide. The last slide never got used, so you can just ignore that one. So really, I only had 13 slides. Now there were builds, there were little boxes that appeared.
Yes, that was fun.
And stuff.
And then there's the peeling of the pages.
Yes.
Which I captured all of that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you did.
A lot of slicing and dicing in that.
Well, that's great.
But not
look,
76 slides.
I had 13 slides. He had, now that's 76 in the opening?
Yes. I haven't even gotten to the rebuttal yet.
Well, that's just it. Dale Tuggy uses slides in his rebuttal. He uses slides in his questions. No, he didn't use slides, but he also uses slides in the closing. Yes. So there'll be over 100, easily.
And I was sitting there watching him from one of the angles, and he's not typing while he's not sitting there drinking water, and I'm like, okay, so it's definitely totally canned on rebuttal. And
it is, yeah, there's no two ways about it.
No interaction with what you're actually saying.
No interaction with what I'm saying, but prediction.
Yes.
You know, he's got my book. I'm consistent, therefore he can predict what I'm going to say, and that's how he does it. But yeah, Rich is working on that now, and that will be up, and hence, really high quality, super high resolution, all the rest of that kind of stuff. And one last thing here, just in case, this just popped up, so that's the reason I'm talking about it. The TGT Conference 2026, so the Gospel Truth Conference 2026 in Dallas, February 6th and 7th. One of the debates, this is the day before, so this is my debate's in the middle, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 7th. On the 6th, Jake Brancatella, who I did a dialogue with, wasn't really technically a debate, but a dialogue in this room. I remember, where things were set up. He's Muslim. He had some kind of medical issue. I think last year, but he must have gotten through that because he's going to be debating Avery Austin on the Islamic dilemma. I'm not sure exactly what topic that's going to be, but there are at least 6 debates, and maybe 8 debates that are taking place. And that'll be really cool as far as the wide variety of topics. The negative part is that my debate's only 90 minutes long with a quote-unquote biblical Unitarian. Hey, wait a minute.
Yes.
What? What was that doing in here?
Been there for 6 months.
I thought I had lost that book. I spent $69 to replace it. What else is over there that I need to go find?
King James Only Controversy. And Dolby just texted me going, is that the book that's in the back? Jerome?
Thank you, Mr. Dalby. Now I don't have to. The marked up copy that had all the anathemas I wanted to read to you from that has just been discovered by one of our eagle-eyed viewers who happens to go to this church and knew that we share. Well, there are facilities as far as the cameras and stuff like that, but we allow the folks here at the church to do some stuff with it, and evidently was somewhere back there. You know how every studio has that place that just starts to collect stuff? Well, it was back there. So that will save me a little bit of time. Thank you very much, Mr. Dalby, for that. All right. If I'm missing something, I'll know who to ask next time. All right, thanks for watching the program. Lord willing, we'll see you sometime later in the week, depending on how scheduling all works out. Appreciate you watching the program. Hope it was helpful to you. We'll see you next time.